Hi, and welcome to Key Stage 3 Science at the Tall Tree Academy, which is applicable to ages 11 to 14. So, today we'll be talking about animal and plant cells and the different components within the cells and their functions. Cells are basic building blocks of all animals and plants. Inside the cells are specialist components which carry out particular functions. Cells are actually too small to be seen by the naked eye and can be seen through a microscope. Can you try and spot the difference between the animal and the plant cells? So the few differences of these cells are that animal cells are more circular and plant cells are a bit more square. Plant cells also contain more components than animal cells, and we'll come on to that a bit later. The first component that we'll be looking at is the nucleus. Now, what is a nucleus? A nucleus controls the whole of the cell. And the nucleus is almost like the king of a kingdom. So if you imagine the cells are like kingdoms, then the nucleus is the head that controls everything. The nucleus also contains genetic material like DNA. You may have heard of DNA from TV shows or movies. The next part that we'll be looking at is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance which most of the chemical reactions of the cell happen. So as you can see from where we're pointing in the cells, it's just the blue bit in both animal and plant cells. It's just all around this jelly-like substance that chemical reactions are happening in. Then the next component is the cell membrane. Now, a cell membrane is, so again, with the analogy of a kingdom, is almost like the walls around the kingdom, which has guards and has some small gates to allow things to come in and out. So cell membrane, it allows things to enter and leave the cell, and it holds everything in. And yes, there is also little gates in it that have guards, but we'll come on to that in another video. The next component is the mitochondria. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. This is where majority of the respiration happens, which converts energy from glucose. So it's like a nuclear power plant in our kingdom analogy. So the next part that we'll be looking at is the plant cells components. So animal cells don't contain these. The first one is the cell wall. The cell wall is similar to a cell membrane, except that it's made of cellulose and it's a rigid outer coating which gives support to the cell. And it's the outside line and not the inside line in a plant cell. The next part is the chloroplasts. So chloroplasts are plant cells that contain chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is used in photosynthesis, which makes food for plants. We'll discuss this in another video along with respiration within mitochondria. A way to remember chloroplasts and chlorophyll is by the word colour, because they kind of sound a bit like colour, like chlorophyll and chloroplast. And it's the chlorophyll which gives the green colour in leaves. So you can kind of remember chloro, colour, and colour, green, and leaves. Then the final part is the vacuole of plant cells. So a vacuole is a space that contains cell sap, which is a weak solution of sugars and salts. So that's all the components of animals and plant cells. Now, animals and plants are made of many cells that work together, so they are multicellular organisms. Lots of similar cells working together make a tissue, and lots of different tissues working together make an organ, and a group of organs working together make an organ system. A multicellular organism is generally made up of several organ systems. So if you think about us as humans, so we have lots of organ systems going on. We have the circulatory system, which is to do with the heart. We have a respiratory system, which is to do with the lungs. And we have the lymphatic system. So we have lots of systems together. There are, however, some organisms that are made from unicellular organisms. So they only contain one cell in them. And an example of that is a euglena. So a euglena, they live in the water and they have a tail-like structure called a flagellum, which helps them to swim. and they have an adaptation to help them survive in their environment. So for a Euglena, it's the tail. So now let's have a look at a past paper question, and feel free to pause the video here so you can answer it. So thinking about the first part of the question, now it's almost a little bit of a trick question, this one, because this Euglena that they've shown contains both animal and plant cells properties. But the answer would be, or there's any two from, it has a flagellum, which helps it to move, and it doesn't have a cell wall, and it does not have a vacuole. Right, so let's move on to the second question. So the second question is chloroplasts. Now, chloroplasts, it says chloroplasts because we know chloroplasts help with photosynthesis. So it's the same with in a Euglena. Right, I hope that was informative. Thank you very much for watching. Please feel free to ask questions below and leave feedback on how to improve the videos, and I'll try and get back to you. And also, if you would like one-to-one sessions, I do offer them via Skype as well as in person, depending on where you live. And we can do sessions on Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4 science. Feel free to contact me on the email address below. Thank you so much. Bye.